Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We'll continue reading Teachings of Lord Chaitanya book. If somebody wrongly thinks that this material body is as perfect as the spiritual body and thus begins to worship by imitating of Vrindavan, he becomes part and parcel of the Mayavadi or impersonal philosophy. The impersonalists also recommend a process of aham griha pashana. The process recommends that one should worship his own body as the supreme. By this material way of thinking, the Sudar transcendentalists dress themselves as the damsels of Braja, but they are to be taken as the Aham Graha Pashana and are not acceptable in devotional service. Srila Jiva Goswami, the most authentic Acharya of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, has condemned this attempt by imitators. The process of transcendental realization is to follow in the footsteps of the associates of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and so to think of oneself as one of the direct associates of the Supreme Lord is also condemned. The process, according to authorized Vaishnava principles, is that one should follow a particular devotee and not think of himself an associate. Sri Ramanand Roy explained, therefore, that one should accept the mood of the damsels of Braja. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is clearly said that one should accept the emotional activities and not imitate the dress of the associates of Krishna, the damsels of Braja. One should always think within himself about the dealings of Radha and Krishna in the transcendental world. He should think of Radha and Krishna all 24 hours and be engaged in their service within himself, not externally change his dress only. This is called the mood of the associates of friends of Radharani, and by following the associates of Radharani, one can ultimately achieve the perfectional stage of being transferred to Golok Vrindavan, the transcendental abode of Krishna. This mode of emotional pursuit of the gopis is called Siddha Deha. Siddha Deha means the pure spiritual body which is beyond the senses, mind, and intelligence. Siddha Deha is the purified soul and is just suitable for serving the Supreme Lord. No one can serve the Supreme Lord as his associates without being situated in that perfectly pure spiritual identity. That identity is completely free from all material contamination. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that a person materially contaminated transmigrates to another material body by material consciousness. At the time of death, he thinks in that way and therefore is transferred to another material body. Similarly, when one is situated in his pure spiritual identity and thinks of spiritual loving service rendered to the Supreme Lord, he is transferred into the spiritual kingdom to enter into the association of Krishna. In other words, to think of Krishna and his associates in the spiritual identity is the qualification for transcendence to the spiritual kingdom. No one can contemplate or think of the activities of the spiritual kingdom without being situated in pure spiritual identity. That pure spiritual identity is called Siddha Deha. Ramanand Roy, therefore, expressed himself to the effect that without attending to that Siddha Deha, no one can become an associate of the damsels or render service directly to the personality of Godhead. Krishna and his eternal consort Radharani, he quoted in this connection a nice verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 47th chapter, in which is stated the following: Neither the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, nor even the damsels of the heavenly kingdom could attain the facilities of the damsels of Brajabhumi, and what to speak of others. Lord Chaitanya was very satisfied upon hearing this statement from Ramanand Roy, and he embraced him Both of them began to cry in ecstasy in that transcendental realization. Both the Lord and Ramananda discussed throughout the whole night the transcendental pastimes of Radharani and Krishna, and in the morning they separated. Ramananda left to go to his place, and the Lord went to take his bath. At that time, at the time of separation, Ramananda fell down at the feet of Lord Chaitanya and prayed as follows: My dear Lord, you have come just to deliver me from this mire of nescience. Therefore, I request that you may remain here at least for 10 days, and you can purify my mind of this material contamination. There is nobody else who can deliver such transcendental love of God. The Lord replied, I have come to you to purify myself by hearing from you of the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and Radha. And I am so fortunate, for you are the only teacher of such transcendental pastimes. I do not find anyone else in this world that can realize this transcendental loving reciprocation between Radha and Krishna. You are requesting me to stay here for 10 days, but I feel that I wish to remain with you for the rest of my life. Please come to Jagannath Puri, my headquarters, and we may remain together for the rest of my life, and I can pass my remaining days in understanding Krishna and Radha by your association. Sriman Ramanand Roy came to see the Lord the next day in the evening, and there were discourses on this transcendental subject matter. And the Lord again began to inquire from Ramanandra as follows: What is the highest standard of education? Ramanandra immediately replied that the highest standard of education is to know the science of Krishna. The standard of material education is sense gratification, but the standard of spiritual education, especially the highest standard, is to know the science of Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 29th chapter, 47th verse, it is stated that work which pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest standard of work. The science of knowledge, which places one in full Krishna consciousness, is the highest standard of knowledge. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, while instructing his childhood friends at school, also stated that hearing or chanting of the Lord, remembering, worshipping, praying, serving, making friendship with Krishna, and offering everything to him is to be understood as the highest standard of spiritual knowledge. Then Lord Chaitanya asked Ramanand Roy, what is the highest standard of reputation? Ramanand Roy immediately replied that if a person is famous by a reputation of Krishna consciousness, he is to be called the most famous man in the world. In other words, if a man is known as Krishna conscious, he is the greatest, most famous of men. I think this is the end of the chapter. Okay, I'll stop here and just share my realization from this reading. You see, there is the conversation between Ramanand Roy and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going on, and he's mentioned here that as per Vaishnava principles, we should follow a particular devotee, not think of himself as an associate. As per Mayavadi philosophy, the impersonalists worship their own body as the supreme. Even sometimes they dress themselves as damsels of Braja. Srila Jiva Goswami has condemned this kind of attempt. Actually, we should follow in the footsteps of our acharyas or the great devotees, not we should not imitate them. As per it's also mentioned here that as per like in Bhagavad Gita, the person at the time of death, if he materially contaminated, will think in that way only and transmigrates to another material body. But if one is situated in his pure spiritual identity, and thinks of spiritual loving service rendered to the Supreme Lord is transferred to spiritual kingdom and get association of Krishna. I think this is from verse 8.6, chapter 8, verse 6. That's Yamam Bapi Smaran Bhavan Tejyanti Ante Kalevaram. Whoever, in what state, whoever will quit their body, they will get that kind of destination. So Ramanand Roy is explaining here that externally decorating the body as gopis is useless. We have to understand the mood of gopis, like how they're always engaged in the service of Krishna, always engage themselves in thinking about Radha and Krishna, how to serve them. So also mentioned that the spiritual identity is called Siddha Deha. Without attending to Siddha Deha, no one can become an associate of the damsels, or render service to directly to the personality of Godhead and his eternal consort Srimati Radharani. So the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied by the explanations given by Ramanand Roy, and the Lord then embraced him. They both cry in ecstasy. And then Ramanand Roy, we see Ramanand Roy was requesting Mahaprabhu that Mahaprabhu should stay like 10 more days with him. Then Mahaprabhu said, we are speaking like 10 more days. I just want to stay my whole life, spend my rest of my life with you. So Mahaprabhu asked Ramanand Roy that you should come to Jagannath Puri, my headquarters. Then Lord is also inquiring him further. He is inquiring from Ramanandra that what is the highest standard of education, what is the highest reputation. So how Ramanandra is explaining that the highest standard of education is the knowledge of science of Krishna, science of Krishna consciousness, because material education is only for sense gratification. But if the education is related to science of Krishna, then that is the highest standard of education. That highest standard of reputation is also if a person is full with Krishna consciousness. That reputation is the highest reputation. Also we see how some references are given from Srimad Bhagavatam, where Prahlad Maharaj says, like, when we chant about Krishna, remember about Krishna, do services to Krishna, and make friendship with Krishna, that is the highest knowledge, that is the best knowledge, highest form of knowledge, a knowledge related to Krishna consciousness.